Hey, good evening, everyone. John Henry Soto here. Welcome to JHS Interviews. Tonight, I have Max Knobbe is going to be on. He is the Executive Director of BronxNet, organization in the Bronx that does a lot of great things. I'm very excited to talk to him. And without further ado, please welcome to the show, Max Knobbe. Hey,
Great day.
see, I have to adjust it. You got it down. I forgot to ask you. Did I pronounce your last name correctly?
Can you say it again?
Nobi.
Well, you can say Nobi. I mean, a lot of people say Nabi. Michael
Nabi.
Mack.
Okay.
In Korean, it means tiger butterfly, Nabi. And
Oh, okay. Cool.
It is a silent K, but we do have that E that we pronounce.
Right. Okay. Cool. All right. So I sort of okay, but not right there.
Close enough.
Close enough. All right. So thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate it. I always start my show by asking, because of the current situation, is how are you doing?
Better now that I'm talking with you here, John Henry Soto. Thank you for inviting me.
My
We are
pleasure.
well. Thank God. Family is good. God bless you and your family. And yeah, I mean, we're doing as well as can be, despite the
Yeah.
challenges. We persevere. We work together, and I think there's a lot of great things that we can do to come out of this stronger,
Mhm.
despite the challenges.
I agree, and that's one of the things that we talk about here is what a lot of people are actually doing to kind of get ready for what's coming, whatever post COVID is, for those challenges. So let's talk a little bit um, about you and BronxNet. It was 2002, I believe, that you became the executive director there. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
I,
and what was that like?
so, if you go back even further, the Bronx is almost like a city, right? It's a borough of 1.5 million people. And at the time that BronxNet started, you know, there were no media outlets in the Bronx. There was some weekly newspapers that were Bronx based, but the Bronx was being misrepresented in mainstream media and local news. And when I say local news, it wasn't local enough, clearly,
Right.
at that time. And there was also um, the way the Bronx was being portrayed in Hollywood. It was sensationalized, and the Bronx was really presented as this symbol around the world of urban blight. And it was, in many respects, unfair. And the people of the Bronx needed their own media outlet. The people of the Bronx needed a voice. And BronxNet became the network of the people of the Bronx. So we produced the first and only daily news show live in the Bronx at the time, back in the early 90s. And we expanded from 0 channels to 1 channel to 4 channels to now we're 6 channels.
Wow.
We started our operations. We went from no studio spaces in the Bronx for a local news and information to a studio at Lehman College in the Bronx, and then 2 studios at Lehman College, and then another studio in the East Bronx at Mercy College, a BronxNet TV at the Hutch Metro Center at Mercy College, and then now we have a third studio in the South Bronx, in BronxNet at the Hub.
Mm-hmm.
And in addition to that, it's about providing media access and media production training for the Bronx, for the people of the Bronx, to share their vision, to contribute to community building through media, and to provide also the students of the Bronx, middle school, high school, and college students, with career building experience, with experiential learning opportunities at BronxNet, so that we can help prepare the next generation of future media leaders. And we continue to do that, and we've done that, and that's been a big part of our educational mission, is to provide this workforce development training for Bronxites. And students, high school students that are now producers at MTV, BET, CNN, at WNBC, at CBS, at ABC, at News 12, New York One. I mean, these are reporters, these are anchors like Darlene Rodriguez at NBC, Yaya Uberis at New York One, Leslie Paget, a post-production supervisor at CBS, people behind the scenes, in front of the camera, people who are award-winning producers, industry-recognized people in the industry that are industry leaders now, but started in the Bronx at BronxNet as Bronx students with some aspirations. And that's the story of the Bronx. We're an aspirational borough. As BronxNet grew, I started the post-production and the production arm at BronxNet, the creative services department. And we produced not only news and information, but arts and cultural programming. The Bronx has tremendous creative capital and so much talent and rich arts that are celebrated around the world and have influenced arts around the world. And at BronxNet, we've had, for our quarter century of public service, more than a quarter century of public service, a deep commitment to Bronx artists, Bronx arts organization, and celebrating Bronx arts and culture and disseminating it from the Bronx to the world. Yeah. And that's what we have done as a nonprofit public service network. We've enhanced our services. We've expanded our locations. We're building another multimedia state-of-the-art studio in the hub, BronxNet at La Centrale right now. This is going to have windows on the South Bronx studio, a media immersion lab and innovation lab, as well as post-production suites. And it's going to be a tremendous space that is only blocks from where we are serving in the South Bronx right now, BronxNet at the hub on 3rd Avenue. So we are, through this crisis, through our collective crises, we've sort of migrated our services a little bit, and we've met the challenges. And back in 2002, I mean, I think we were at a certain stage, and if you look at where we were in 2002, and there were tremendous stories to tell all across the history of the Bronx, and in parallel to that, what we've been able to do at BronxNet. But if you look at what we've been able to do most recently, it's pretty incredible, including with the migration to production in the cloud, to remote collaboration and production with our teams and journalists on the street and in the community, but also our teams and their at-home TV studios, and their at-home post-production suites, and their at-home graphics and animation studios. So we have independent voices at BronxNet. These are members of the public that have taken training at BronxNet and are producing content. And then we have a professional team. And of course, we have really engaged students that believe in the community and that believe in what we're doing.
Yeah. It's wow. I mean, it's so incredible. One of the things you mentioned that was interesting was about the misrepresentation of the Bronx, which for me has always been just the way it was for a very long time. And I feel that shift is happening right now in because of organizations like BronxNet, and because of people like yourself and others that have just decided the people need to be represented. And when films, I remember when Fort Apache the Bronx came out, I was living there. I remember the production trucks and all that. Uh, and when the film came out, it was such an outrage that they had to put a disclaimer at the beginning of the film saying that the Bronx is actually not like this anymore. It's being being developed, and it was all this, but it was such a, because it showed the worst I mean, you talk about taking 10 steps back when we were just coming out of the 70s and going into the 80s. That is that something that the people that you bring into your organization, that they're aware of? That do you make them aware of what the history of what they're dealing with is? The actual the dark period, I guess you would say.
Yeah, I mean, we recently celebrated our quarter century of public service anniversary, and we definitely heralded the people of the Bronx through the history of the Bronx and through these periods of crises and how the community comes together and is a part of resurgence and making the Bronx a symbol of urban renewal. So that is something particularly with the young people and the students that we do, and that we most recently did with the production and the short form documentaries that we did regarding the genesis of BronxNet and our public services, and how really it's the collective, the community that makes the Bronx and its TV by, for, and about the Bronx that's really authentic.
Mm-hmm. And how do you deal with the? Is there a lot of bureaucracy when you're trying to create certain things, Bronx related, where it needs a space and you need to find, like Mercy College? I'm familiar. I went to Mercy College actually for like about a week, but that's a really great space over there. Is there a lot of things that you're up against, or is it pretty smooth sailing?
So Mercy College has, a campus in Manhattan, and then there's the Dobbs Ferry campus right on the Hudson River there, and there is the Hutch Metro Center campus in the East Bronx, and it's a beautiful campus.
Yeah.
And what we've done at BronxNet is we've identified partners with unutilized or underutilized space, and we've transformed those empty spaces and places into media active spaces and community spaces. And so at Lehman College, we're not in a basement. I don't think we're in a basement. We're not. We're in a sub basement and a sub basement, but it's beautiful space. It's 2 large studios, state of the art technology. We've got all new lighting systems there and all new control rooms and beautiful studio spaces. And we're also renovating our other spaces there right now. So there is some construction happening at our network operations, BronxNet at Lehman College. And then at Mercy College, there was a small space off of the cafeteria that was underutilized. Maybe somebody would once in a while go sit there and study, but it was, it was just off the cafeteria. It was not really being utilized. It was a small space. Yeah. And it was identified as an opportunity for BronxNet to create something that would benefit the students and the people of the East Bronx with a state-of-the-art studio. And we created an express studio there. We created a media lab there. And it's a wonderful way for people who live in the East Bronx to engage in community building through media, to learn how to produce a show and actually produce a show. So we have a studio where independent voices, people who live in the Bronx, are producing shows, and we're also producing shows with our teams. And then students are coming to the East Bronx site as well. BronxNet at Mercy College has high school and middle school students that regularly go for internships and media workshops in times of relative normalcy. Right now, we have a pandemic. So all of those opportunities for students and training opportunities for the public, that's all migrated online for now. So we are offering media workshops for the public and internships that are involving remote collaboration and production in the cloud.
Mm-hmm. And so how about yourself? How about like your involvement in this? Is it something, are you from the Bronx? Are you passionate about, doing this in what's your motivation for?
So similarly to you, I grew up in the Bronx, and I born and raised in the Bronx, and I still live in the Bronx. I grew up in the Kingsbridge section of the Bronx, around 231st Street, and I went to a public school 7 over there, and I walked to school, and I'd smell the cookies from Stella d'Oro, which was on Broadway every morning.
Right.
And I went to Bronx High School of Science as well, and of course, BronxNet at Lehman College. I mean, it's right there, so I see that high school all the time. But I still live in the Bronx, not far from where I grew up. I live in this beautiful borough of Parks. I live next to one of the most beautiful parks in our whole region, let alone New York City. I live near Van Cortlandt Park, right next to Van Cortlandt Park. It's like my backyard.
Wow.
So I am passionate about the Bronx. I love the people of the Bronx. I love the landscape of the Bronx. I feel like no matter where I go in the world, my heart and my home will always be in the Bronx.
Yeah.
And I say that I've got a connection here that is truly remarkable. And I have friends that I grew up with that have moved away and they miss the Bronx and they stay in touch with me and they come back to the Bronx and
Mhm.
and it's kind of beautiful to see. I mean, the Bronx is a special place, and you having grown up here, me having grown up here, and and people who are from here, there's a certain pride that we have, and the people of the Bronx are a particular type of strong, and I think that's why we recognize this in each other, and that's why we have this affinity for this place where we were born, where we were raised, where we live, where we work, and it's a special place.
Yeah, and I talked about the that time, those years, the dark years or whatever I call them, but I don't really mean them dark in a negative way. It was just a tough time for the borough. But me personally, I had a great time. I had a loving grandparents that raised me. My mom was very involved in my life. Great brothers and sisters, and a tremendous amount of friends. It was so for me. It was regrettably I moved out. And for music reasons, and I wanted to kind of go out and explore the world and all that. And but honestly, I sometimes feel really bad because I remember at the time when I got out, I was living in a with my grandparents, and I felt bad because I really wanted to get out. But after I got out, it wasn't that I wanted to get out of the Bronx, is that I wanted to kind of explore the world a little bit. I at the time I didn't have enough mentors or that could tell me, you can still explore the Bronx and come back. But I didn't, and I left, and I always feel bad about that. And I always went back. I have a lot of friends. My sister still lives there, and a lot of friends. And but you're right, there is something special about when you grow up in the Bronx, and it's not like any other borough because when you look at some other boroughs, and I know other boroughs are not going to get mad at me, but that's okay. But like if you look at like Williamsburg, right? Williamsburg, I have friends that live in Williamsburg. Oh, Williamsburg. Well, Williamsburg was like a really rough place a long time ago, right? And suddenly now it's the chic place to live, and the L train is like the whatever they call it now. But um, this is my opinion. I really feel that the Bronx is actually now making this resurgence and having this renaissance because of people from the Bronx. And I kind of, when I look at Williamsburg and I go in there, and I have some friends that live there, they're not from the Bronx. I mean, they're not from Brooklyn. They're not from New York. A lot of them, they just came in, they moved in, and they kind of like, and it's cool. I mean, I'm not saying, but they weren't from there, unfortunately. And I think it pushed people out. And I think what's happening with the Bronx, I think that it's completely different. I think the Bronx people are actually making it happen. They themselves, and they're staying. They're staying and they're coming back, and that to me is exciting. I don't know if you know. Well, actually, I won't talk about her right now, but I'll talk about her later. But there are people that are from the Bronx that came back, that went out, got these big educations, and they came back, and brought that education to the Bronx. What do you deal with that's the hardest to kind of overcome with your mission?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I will say that you bring up some good challenges and what you're talking about, where there's displacement and there's there's challenges and where community uh, has to stand up for what's right. And I think the Bronx has the benefit of having learned from the mistakes of other boroughs and other places, and
Mhm.
even the examples you bring up. I mean, that's something that I think people are keenly aware of here in the Bronx, particularly um, some of our young activists here in the Bronx and others that have been standing up for community and making sure that there is not a situation where people are being railroaded or community is displaced. And I think, being aware of these challenges and these dangers and giving voice to the community and, and covering the stories and the issues around these problems and challenges are key. I think that that's one thing is we have to have an ear to the ground, and there's got to be an awareness in presenting multiple points of view. And sometimes the path of least resistance is not the best path. And then what are some of the biggest challenges? I mean, I think for me right now, I'm working with our team and arts organizations to help connect the creative community to audiences. And we're doing that on BronxNet, and we're doing that with great arts presenters and artists and arts organizations like Teatro Pregones and Casita Maria and the Bronx Children's Museum and Osto Center for the Arts and Culture and Lehman Center and the Bronx Arts Ensemble and the Bronx Opera Company. So what we're doing is we're presenting original works that are produced during this time in partnership with arts organizations and artists. And we're also presenting legacy content from the stages of these beautiful Bronx arts venues. And we're promoting and cross-promoting them with the arts organizations to connect audiences with the arts. And then we also are looking to connect artists with the creative economy. So that's another challenge that I think we have to, like meet, and we are. And I mean, we're trying, and we have several ways that we're looking to do that, and looking to make it meaningful and sustainable. And I think another challenge we're facing right now is there's a danger of phase 2, and we're reopening on some levels. And I think just staying aware of the guidance and the guidelines, and presenting health awareness information on BronxNet. We're doing that. We're presenting health programs and health alerts and PSAs, and sharing best practices, and we've got to continue to do that. I mean, to me, these are the challenges that are going on right now, including the challenges for small business. The Bronx is a creative community, but also it's an aspirational community. And there's multi-generational families that have businesses, small businesses in the Bronx, and there's new businesses in the Bronx, and there's aspiring entrepreneurs that are trying to get something started in the Bronx. And small business has been devastated. Small business is devastated before the pandemic,
right?
And now it's like worse. So like these are the challenges, and this is why we're doing a show with the New York City Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Meeting of the Minds, and we're presenting business leaders that are raising awareness about the biggest problems and that need to be addressed, but also showing and sharing how they've successfully come up with resolutions to create something that's sustainable, that is allowing them to continue their business, to survive, and sharing best practices, and sharing from their experience. So it's Meeting of the Minds on BronxNet with the New York City Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and it's hosted by the amazing Zuma Arzu Brown of the New York City Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and also the author of the book Bad Hair Does Not Exist. And she's a tremendous author and community person that lives in the Hunts Point section of the Bronx. We are working with the Third Avenue Bid in the Bronx Chamber as well. And we're working with local leaders, community organizations. We just had a meeting with the Marble Hill OSS, and we're providing media training to their community so that they can, even though they don't have full access to the gardens where they work, where they can connect to the community about gardening and about community issues. So it's a way for community people to reach each other and to amplify their voice, and it's also a way that we can provide valuable information and updates. And then finally, I mean, artists are producing content, and we're sharing it.
Yeah. One of the things that I and the reason I didn't want to bring up somebody earlier, only because this she came to the Bronx, born and raised, went, got an education, came back, and was doing some development in town, which kind of backfired because I think people saw it as a threat. Gentrification word gets thrown around a lot,
Mhm.
and that was one of the fears. So when you're trying to really bring economic growth to a borough, um, it's going to bring a lot of attention to people that want to build, people that see the opportunity there. Um, how much of that, are you is I mean, it's something that it can't be. You can't avoid it. There's gonna be some displacement of some things if you bring in economic. I'm playing a little devil's advocate here, but if you bring in some type of organization or some type of a structure of something, and that's
This is the limited edition high performance BronxNet Shiro One singular face mask. By the way, we actually created these in December, and we were wearing them already in February.
I love it. so So when you put a lot of attention on economic changes into a borough, are you concerned that the Bronx net is going to be used, to show that this is actually a good thing for the borough to bring in more money? We need to knock down those buildings and put up a 20-story building. And
Well,
I look at Williamsburg as an example because they went in. A lot of developers came in. It didn't seem like there was the structure that you have with BronxNet and that entity that can actually make sure that there is some type of like, whoa, hold on, we got stuff going on here. That wasn't in Williamsburg. People came in there with like sledgehammers and just did whatever they wanted to do, and the displacement just happened, and it was unfortunate. But is that something that you get concerned about, or there's
everybody is alert and aware and concerned, and um, and I think that also there's a diversity of voices. I mean, on BronxNet on our channels, it's 6 channels, like I said, and it's independent voices that are using BronxNet's resources to produce and then submit programs for broadcast on the BronxNet channels, or there are people who are just independently, producing shows. They have their own technology and they're producing shows and submitting content. And these programs reflect the diversity of the Bronx. They're multilingual. They have multiple perspectives clearly. And I would say that you always want to be aware and look at what is being said and read between the lines. And I'd say that there's so many great shows on BronxNet, and there's such a spectrum of ideas being presented that I can tell you unequivocally, what you're talking about, it's not overrepresented or even, I would say something to be concerned about in terms of being on the channel. I mean, I haven't seen it, but like I said, we're always alert and we're always aware. And I think that the important thing is to keep the conversation going and to keep alert and keep keenly aware and read between the lines and don't take things for granted. And I mean, I said it before, I'll say it again. It's the path of least resistance is not always the best path.
Right. I just had to put my name on mine. Had to join in on that.
So
I like that though.
this one has got like artwork from the street artist Shiro One.
Okay. Oh, look at that. Okay.
So she's a
Nice.
internationally renowned street artist who loves the Bronx, and her name is Shiro One, and she did this epic mural, "Love for the Boogie Down,"
Nice.
on our studio wall at BronxNet's network operations at Lehman College. And she
That's
also designed these face masks with our graphic designer Christine.
Yeah. Love it. So let's talk about artists. Growing up, I had Casita Maria, which was there, and it was kind of a place that I went to a lot to, there was a lot of violence during that time, and that was a place that I was also a little celebrity. I was a ghetto celebrity because I was a little bit of a break dancer at the time, and I was dancing in all those events and all that stuff. So I would go to Casita Maria to practice and to stay out of trouble. Um, Music was something that I was in my house, and you know, a lot of the organizations didn't have just a place where you can go and learn how to play. I had to learn how to play by taking books out of the library right there on Southern Boulevard. I'd go in, get a book out, take it out for 2 weeks, learn, write down the chords, bring it back in, take it out again, and that was the way I learned how to play. Um, the network. Do you have? I know you have a lot of artists on there as well. Do you have programming that kind of like deals with specific, like maybe music, maybe a jazz thing or something related to that?
Well, through the history of BronxNet, we've had amazing producers, and some of them we've lost that did jazz programming on BronxNet, like Jazz Corner
Mm,
and Steve Pucci,
yeah.
Latin Jazz Alive and Kicking, and Keith Copeland did an amazing show, and we still have some great jazz shows. Um, but right now, I would say that there is a real effort to make sure that despite the digital divide, despite schools being closed, over the course of last semester and this summer and into next semester with the changes in policy and guidelines, there's concern that with remote learning, not all students have enough devices in the home, not
Right.
enough reliable bandwidth or internet at home. So we at BronxNet have teamed up with Bronx educators to create the Bronx Edulution. And we're working with Bronx Executive Superintendent Misha Ross Porter, Bronx Principal from CS55, Luis Torres, and other administrators and educators, so that BronxNet is providing media training to Bronx teachers, and Bronx teachers are producing educational lessons for broadcast on BronxNet television. And in addition to the teachers producing content for the Edulution, which we air for 2 hours in the morning on BronxNet, and then again in 2 hours in the afternoon every day, we also have teaching artists producing content, including artists from the Bronx Arts Ensemble, artists from Education Through Music, and from the Bronx Children's Museum. And it's not only math, because there's math lessons. It's not only science, because there's science lessons and literacy. And there's also arts education and music lessons and visual arts programming. And it's all on BronxNet in the morning from 9:30 to 11:30, and again in the afternoon from 2:30 to 4:30 every day. And so we also present full concerts on BronxNet of amazing artists, internationally renowned and local artists. I would say that there are great independent producers at BronxNet that continue to do terrific shows spotlighting musical talent,
Yeah.
including jazz.
Yeah, the Bronx has such a rich history in music, and it's very exciting to see that. I just have a question. Somebody, great point. Never considered the fact that not every child learning from home may have access to computers, Wi-Fi. Yeah, exactly. My wife is a teacher in a rough part of New Jersey, and that's her main. Her main issue was there was just not enough. They didn't have computers. They didn't have a lot of these things. Um,
Because sometimes there's a device that is in the house, but look, maybe there's 3 children, and then the parents also have to use and share the same device, or maybe there's 2 devices, and
right.
and there's challenges that are documented where there's not enough devices, and then look, I mean, I have robust bandwidth, but at certain times of the day, it's just no
I
good.
know. Yeah, yeah. I know it's really difficult to really just have a one complete answer for everything, because everything is exactly what you're doing, because you're taking these steps and kind of running into, you have these things that you're working with these teams and figuring it out, as you go along. Sometimes you don't know exactly what's needed until it's like, oh wait, just remember this has to actually be confronted here. We have a situation. For me, it's always been about the arts. It's always been about really education, entertainment, educating in an entertaining way. For me was, if it wasn't for my third grade teacher that was just fun, I don't think I would have not, I would still be in third grade. And in high school I had a teacher that was just fun, and he kind of presented characters as he was educating. And one of the things that I would like to see also is something like that on BronxNet, where maybe even like some kind of a sitcom or something, like some kind of because right now one of the things that I've been talking about a lot of is that during this whole pandemic, everyone has been streaming the hell out of Netflix and just sucking all those platforms dry. So there's people right now, they're writing, they're creating new content, creating new shows, and people are going to be starved for new stuff. And BronxNet is no different, right? I mean, it's we're going to be putting out new content and creating new exciting things. So it's a good opportunity, I think, to kind of get in there and compete with all these other huge networks, and I mean, I know it's kind of like a David and Goliath possibly, but I don't think so. I mean, it can be done, so what do you think about that with all the mess that I just said?
I think that you're right. It's a time to sort of recreate and create, and it's a time to be reborn, and a time to like just look at like where we are in the world and what we are and who we are and what we want to do, and do it. It's just reassess everything, and and prioritize things maybe differently. Like look at like you know this way that we live and what we do in a different way, and deconstruct it, reconstruct it, or just do something completely different. And I would say that people are doing it. I mean, before the pandemic, Trisha Hayward was doing a sci-fi soap opera on BronxNet with like costumes and sets, and she's definitely migrating that creativity and channeling it in a different way. And then there's a local bartender. I'd see him in this spot near me, Tallulah, and he he's in a band, and his band is great. It's like reggae, beautiful music, original music. His band's not performing because of the pandemic. I'm talking about like about 2 months ago, 3.5 months ago, and bars were closed at that time. Where not even the outdoor section was open, so he was out of work, right? And his girlfriend was also out of work as an artist as well as the bartender. Wow. So again, here's this challenge of the creative economy. But anyway, I saw him starting to put up on his Instagram these little videos, and they were cute. I said, "Why don't you do a show on BronxNet?" And he was just like, "What?" And I swear, 11 days later, he submits to me this brilliant show called Cult TV. He and his girlfriend basically taught themselves how to shoot and edit, and they created this beautiful, rich half hour of content with original funny sketches, with original music. I was crying.
Wow.
Because the song was so beautiful. The last song. It's called Cult TV, and he turned like 11 days later. He comes up with this thing, and we premiered it on BronxNet. He did a follow-up episode, and again, it's original music sketches. And I just spoke with him today. Actually, he's rebranding his whole band and all that, and basically he's gonna be doing these single releases, and he just recreated himself. And he said that his girlfriend, his partner, she basically took that opportunity to work on this show with him, which they both learned a tremendous amount and just producing this show. And now she's producing her first film. So you never know where these things are going to take you. You know,
It's true. It really is what you make of it. You know, if you look at the situation and you say, "Well, I have this time now. Let me just rethink of things. Let me look at what I've been doing. You know, have I been happy? Because I think a lot of people had to put the brakes on stuff and then really take a good look at what they've been running at 1,000 miles an hour and realizing, you know what, I'm not even that happy doing this. You know, and really start working on that script or that I started this because I was here and I was like, oh, okay, well, I have 2 films scheduled. That's done. You know, all the other things that I was planning on doing. And I said, well, what can I do? You know, well, I can call up all the wonderful people that I've met throughout my life and see if they want to just have a conversation with me on camera, you know. And then it kind of built into a little bit more of than what I thought. And now I'm here talking to you, which is such a pleasure. And, uh, you know, that's amazing that they did that. I mean, it's such a joy to hear that because that's exactly what I was just talking about. I was talking about just somebody who just coming in and saying, "Here, this is entertainment," and that to me is more of what's in the Bronx. Because the Bronx, I think, is the most entertaining of the boroughs, right? I mean, you could say Manhattan, but Manhattan is just they got stuff and stuff, and but it's Manhattan. It's a big place, a lot of buildings, and a lot of stuff goes on there. But the Bronx for me just has character. It just always had its own character, and it's just a rich place for that. Do you get excited when you think of an idea and you see it happening? I mean, because you've talked about so many amazing things that you've done. There must have been that moment where it kind of like you had this idea, you brought it somewhere, and then the snowball started happening, and then you see this thing actually go to fruition, and you must be completely so happy about it.
I think of course, I'm happy about it. I'm grateful that we've had some success, but I truly am fulfilled and happy when I see some of our young people in the industry who are producing stuff, who've learned the skills and who've built this experience at BronxNet and now are taking it either at BronxNet still as one of our great team members or on a national network or a local New York mainstream network. I would say that is a great achievement. And then as far as other stuff goes, like, it's always like the next thing, once you do it, you don't sort of rest on it. Like you got, okay, it's kind of like being hungry for what's next and what's the next opportunity, what's the next challenge, what's the next problem to solve. Every challenge has at least 7 resolutions. Let's work together to meet them and to solve them and resolve them. And I think that's how I kind of look at it. There's a thing that I will say is that I'm very proud of our team at BronxNet because we hit the ground running when this pandemic struck New York City. On March 13th, we had already scaled down by March 13th our operations. We had smaller crews. We were only doing limited numbers of shows in the studio. And March 13th was our last live show in the studio. By Monday, we were producing remotely all of our shows with our TV hosts at home in their home TV studios, with our production teams and producers collaborating and doing, and creating the show remotely, production in the cloud. And we actually are now producing more content during the pandemic than before the pandemic. We were producing a tremendous amount before the pandemic, now even more. And that's because there's so much more of a need. So all of these partnerships that we've developed over these years, and these are long-standing, strong partnerships, have gotten even stronger because of the need. And we have new partnerships as a result of this pandemic. And in response to social injustice, we have new partnerships as well, and we're producing social justice programming. And we were just at the March Against Gun Violence. We went live with the Bronx District Attorney and City Councilwoman Vanessa Gibson and SOS and Life Up Guns Down and other organizations and youth and community marching against gun violence, from Mott Park to the Grand Concourse. And it's something that we're regularly doing, is being out there with the community, whether it's a protest and rally in support of Black Lives Matter in the Bronx, in the South Bronx, or in the Northwest Bronx, or in the East Bronx. We are really here for the people of the Bronx in terms of covering the Bronx, but also in putting the cameras in your hands and putting the tools in your hands and helping you to share your voice. Yeah. So I think that John Henry Soto, the Bronx keeps creating it. And that's what we got to remember. Right. When you were talking about growing up in the 70s and the 80s, I mean, I used to listen to this music. It was incredible, and I remember the first socially conscientious hip hop anthem that I heard, and it was Grandmaster Melly Mel, and and it was the Furious Five and Grandmaster Flash,
all those guys,
and the Message. And I remember my best friend from like first grade, when we were in, I guess we were still in elementary school, and we were listening to that song on vinyl, and it was his older brother's record, and we were just blown away.
Yeah.
And now at BronxNet, we're working with Grandmaster Melly Mel, pioneer of hip hop. He's producing content, health content with us at BronxNet for the people of the Bronx. And wow. He's a tremendous ally for the people of the Bronx, as are other hip hop pioneers and artists from the Bronx and of the Bronx. And we are a particular type of strong, and we're a particular type of creative, and we have tremendous creative capital, and nobody can take that from us. Others keep on faking it, but the Bronx keeps creating it.
That's right. I love it. You talk about the music. It was such a huge impact on me. I remember walking down the street and hearing a guy on a stoop doing this thing that I never heard before. He was rhyming words in this pattern, and I just couldn't understand what he was doing. It was hip hop. It was like the birth of it for me. So it was like this image. His name was Baby Spoon. That was his name. And and then I saw him at a block party, and and it was just such an amazing thing because it wasn't on the radio. It was sort of like our thing. Like we knew about this thing that was happening, and on BLS at midnight, I don't know if you remember, but every midnight WBLS had like these battles, and they had the Cold Crush, and they had the Furious Five. They had all these amazing hip hop guys coming in, or rappers at the time, and they would come in, or MCs actually. They would come in and they would do this battle, and we would get a little cassette player and we would record it. And whoever had the best copy, the next day we'd get together with our big boombox and we'd listen to it again. And it was such an amazing time to be alive, to hear that actually be born, and to see what it actually turned into, and to hear that Melly Mel is there now doing this. It's so inspiring to me. I just freaking love it.
Do you still have your boombox?
Man, if I had that boombox, that thing was just a powerhouse, man. You can get them on eBay.
Yeah, I had a JVC that I missed. My cousin broke it, but I should have just kept it anyway.
Yeah, it's such a classic. Michael, thank you so much. Just I want to thank you for being on. It's been a pleasure to hear about the BronxNet. Can you give us just one little final thought on, like, what do you see in the next year? I know the pandemic situation. Let's just put the pandemic aside, as difficult as that is. But in the next couple of years, where do you see BronxNet developing into?
So I'll go, instead of the next couple of years to start, I'm just going to say the next couple of weeks. So Paige Frazier is going to be doing a Dancing Through Disabilities arts panel, and she's got a brilliant film that we're premiering as well on BronxNet, so look out for that next week. Okay. And then we also have on August 6th, Arturo Farrell, who's a brilliant jazz musician. We're partnering with Casita Maria to present his ensemble live on BronxNet on August 6th. And we have media education workshops that are happening for the public and that continue, but it's online, it's remote, it's not at our location. And we also have this summer some paid internships for high school students, and we're taking applications for that for a few weeks this summer. When I say a few weeks, it's probably about 6 weeks. And that's through our partnership with the Ponce Foundation that we're able to do that. And BronxNet is what you want it to be. It's your open work. So John Henry Soto, we'd love to broadcast your show on BronxNet. And if you live in the Bronx, know that we have resources for you. We're going to be providing equipment checkout very soon. And inshallah, our studios will be open soon for full production. We are also taking strategies and approaches where we have leaner teams. We're using best practices with social distancing and gloves, and even with the way we're producing audio, or acquiring audio. We're using best practices for that. We're innovators, we're problem solvers. The more we share, the more we have. And I look forward to 2 years from now when we can take off the masks and we can work together and we can dance and we can, not at home with like we did with the virtual prom, not just at home with like the Bronx virtual prom for our high school students. We broadcast that on BronxNet this past June, but also together in a space because we will come out of this stronger, that's for sure. Every challenge has at least 7 resolutions, and together we're going to keep Bronx strong. BronxNet's your open work. We're here for you. Su canal, su voz, su opinión, su visión. BronxNet.
Love it. I'm going to end on that because that was just too perfect. Michael, thank you so much. Don't go away just yet. I'm just going to end the show. I'm going to come right back. But thank you so much. I really appreciate you and what you're doing with the BronxNet. It means so much to me and my family that I still have there. I have a lot of nieces and nephews and my sister, and it just means a lot. So I want to thank you and everyone and your team for doing this. Thank you.
Thank you, John Henry Soto.
You got it. All right. That was amazing. So Michael is doing it, and I'm really excited that I even know him because I definitely want to get involved, and I'm going to be really working closely to try to see whatever I can bring to the table to actually help move the vision forward and make that mission statement happen because it's exciting. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. If you like this, please hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell, and share it with anybody that's from the Bronx because this is awesome. All right. So thank you, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow night. I'll have Clayton Bardner at 9:30 live right here on this channel. So thank you all. And as always, peace.